morning. Nice to have you with us. Welcome to Studio One, coming to you from the studio located on the campus here at the University of North Dakota. I'm Tom Buehring, your host. Coming up in this half hour, we'll talk about immigrant families who've endured the hardships of new languages and different cultures. This from the perspective of a novelist. Author Will Weaver, whose book Red Earth, White Earth, presented as a 2-hour special on CBS, joins us. And in our Open Doors segment, we'll take a look at the comedy duo that's been entertaining the world through the 4 decades now. Tommy and Dick, better known to you as the Smothers brothers. But first, to the news desk and Amy Bremser. Amy?
Thanks, Tom, and good morning, everyone. The captain of the Exxon Valdez will be sentenced today, but the worst he can get is 90 days in jail and a $1,000 fine. Captain Joseph Hazelwood was found guilty on 1 misdemeanor count, but acquitted of the most serious charges after his ship ran aground last year and caused the worst oil spill in the United States. College students apparently aren't scared by the threat of AIDS. A Brown University study shows the sex habits of college students haven't changed much over the years. Although students are more likely to use condoms, the study says college women reported as much potentially risky sexual behavior last year as in 1975. The University of North Dakota has decided to change from burning coal in its steam plant to burning gas. The State Health Department recently forced UND to shut down 2 of its 3 coal-fired burners because they exceeded pollution limits. Division of Environmental Engineering spokesman Terry O'Clair says the only drawback he sees is that gas is more expensive. To most of us, everyday life can be a struggle, sometimes a bit overwhelming, but for disabled people it can be like climbing a mountain, trying to overcome physical barriers and emotional hurdles. Some take that challenge to the limit. Chris Blaine looks at the sport of quad rugby.
Most disabled are young in their early 20s, active young adults in the prime of their lives. The sport of quad rugby gets them back into the type of activity they're used to. Grand Forks is a leader in the development of quad rugby. Since 1980, the North Dakota Wallbangers have taken to the court, playing exhibitions and giving workshops across the country. Coach and team captain Brad Mickelson says the sport lends itself to most of the actively disabled.
The sport is a good sport for quadriplegics. Even quadriplegics who aren't familiar with athletics, who weren't athletic before they became injured, still enjoy the sport and get out there and participate.
The Wallbangers are putting on an exhibition at the Stoke Manville World Tournament in England this summer. Stoke Manville is one of the first rehab centers to incorporate sports into the rehabilitation process, which Mickelson agrees is an important step.
Wheelchair sports is just one avenue that a person can take in order to build themselves back up, both physically and emotionally, confidence-wise.
As in anything, a lot of preparation is involved, and ultimately sports competition builds an attitude that carries over.
You know, going out there and doing what you have to do to compete or to get by, you know, whether it be on the basketball court or in the parking lot, you know, at the grocery store.
There's only so much court time, so a lot of extra strength and conditioning has to be done on your own. As Coach Brad Mickelson says, you got to pay your dues. Chris Blaine, Studio One News.
The Sioux men are heading into the Elite 8 of the NCAA Division II National Basketball Tournament in Springfield, Massachusetts. Last season, UND was 8-20 and finished last in the North Central Conference. Now, at 26-6, the Sioux hope to bring home a national title. They'll meet Alabama State's Jacksonville State in Saturday's first-round action. One reason for UND's success is junior center Dave Vonish. Earlier this week, Vonish was named to the Kodak National Association of Basketball Coaches All-America Third Team. And that's all for Studio One News. Tom?
Okay, Amy, thank you. The 1990 census, that once-a-decade head count in the U.S., has begun with a mailing of 95 million census questionnaires this week. Census Bureau hopes to have the forms filled out and returned to them by April 1st. Now you're asking, what's the point of all this? Well, besides getting a population count for the country and gathering data, the information helps determining where money from federal grant programs will go. Census officials expect the nation's population will have grown to 250 million. That's an increase of 10% during the last 10 years. The nation's median age is expected to be 33 compared to 30 in 1980, and a typical family will consist of 3 people. And you thought you were just another number. Well, at least for 1 week you are. Studio One meteorologist Bridget Mikula joins us with some other numbers, weather numbers. Bridget?
Thanks, Tom. Across the nation this morning, this Arctic cold front, which is pushing its way further south across the nation, is creating stronger winds and colder temperatures throughout the Great Plains. Back behind this front, rain across the northeast and clear skies throughout the southeast. Over on the west coast, a new frontal system is coming off the Pacific, creating rain throughout the west and clear skies in the southwest. Low temperatures across the nation. With this Arctic mass moving further south, cooler temperatures in the 0 and the teens and the 20s and 30s across the United States, 50s across the south, and 60s and 70s all the way into Florida. Current conditions, temperature is 0 degrees, the winds are west 5 miles per hour, and the relative humidity is 63%. Around the region this morning, temperatures of 0 in Grand Forks, Bismarck at 7, in South Dakota, Sioux Falls at 18, Minnesota, low digits in the northern part of Minnesota, and lower teens and 13 in Rochester. I'll be back with a look at the regional forecast and the extended outlook. Tom?
All right, Bridget. Folks, they've raised trivia to new heights, literally. And for frequent flyers, it may not be such a bad idea. Jet trivia helps you identify more than 1,200 historical or little-known places of interest on the ground you're flying over. Comes in a collection of U.S. highway maps covering the 48 states overlaid with the jet airways used by commercial pilots. You simply ask a crew member what jet airway the pilot's using, pull out the appropriate map, and voila, you're locating trivial landmarks all the way to your destination. The product, not yet out on the market, comes from the personal research of a pilot who used the material to enliven his personal flight announcements. You always wonder what pilots do when they put that big bird on cruise control. Well, now we know. It's 7 minutes past the hour on our Open Door segment, the comic relief of Tommy and Dick Smothers, when Studio One continues.
Kareem, we'll never see eye to eye on anything.
Don't be so short-sighted. We can both see that space research benefits everyone.
Oh, like the scratch-proof lens developed for the Apollo space camera?
That same technology led to scratch-proof eyeglasses, sunglasses.
And even goggles.
You wouldn't need those if your horse was always in front.
That's a tall order.
What we're learning up there
is helping us all down here.
Space technology.
This is what's in it for you.
This company needs quick decisions. So does yours. This company needs leaders. So does yours. This company needs well-trained people. So does yours. So when this company needs to borrow people from your company,
come on, man, move it on. Let's go, let's go.
Remember, they'll always come back better than they were before.
Hey, Bill, could we get your approval on this?
Be a hero. Give your employees the freedom to protect ours.
It's been 31 years since America first laughed with the Smothers Brothers, years that have taken them from San Francisco's Purple Onion in 1959 to the main rooms in Vegas, Atlantic City, and Lake Tahoe. In the process, there have been 10 albums, 3 of them gold, and 3 network television series. There's even a brief retirement of the act for 4 years before returning to stage their ever-popular sibling rivalry. Today in our Open Doors segment, a look at Tommy and Dick, the Smothers Brothers.
We began as musicians. Not one of us was not a musician.
I was a musician,
and I'm still not a musician.
Still trying. But we were trying to be musical, and we were a vocal group, and that's what we did primarily. When in high school, we sang in choirs, and we had a quartet, and we had trios and stuff like that, and that's where it started.
What is the key ingredient? What made it work in the '60s and continues to make it work up until today?
The laugh, the comedy.
Sincerity, I think. You did the speech and what you do today.
Well, what it is you can spend time on stage, and anytime you can get on stage and you can keep someone's attention. You don't have to be funny. If you can keep their attention, if you have no valid reason for keeping their attention except having that ability to keep their attention, then you can create some tension, and then you release and you get laughter. And I was always awkward, and people felt real kind of embarrassed for me.
That's
and I
true.
got great laughter all the time from the time I could speak, from the time I was in 7th, 8th, 9th grade. I knew I had some kind of a thing that people would laugh at. I didn't define it until later on in
That's
life.
a special quality to hold one's attention. You know, everybody out there, when there's people in your class, You know, when they stand up, you look at them. They could have nothing to say, but you're still there like a dog wagging your tail waiting for him to say something. Then when he says something, he doesn't have to say anything. And you think that's just terrific. And there's people like that, and most of the comics have that quality.
Now, I said take it 3 times. You ignored me. Why would I thank you for that?
I didn't hear you say take it.
Oh, come on, Tom. I said take it, you know.
If I'd heard you say take it, I would have taken it.
I don't think you would have. You're standing up here. You can hear me now.
If I could live my life over again for a simple
come on, Tom. You don't have to live your life over again.
I just didn't hear you say take it.
People did not come here to hear us argue.
Some of them did.
When you split up in the 70s for a little while, you both parted ways and both got into theater. Was that fulfilling or was that frustrating?
It was 2 things. It was very fulfilling and it was very frustrating.
And very frightening.
Yes, it was.
You went out there as a star, as the draw, and at the same time we're trying to learn your craft with professionals in supporting roles who could eat you up. They were so good. And so that was the frightening part, trying not to fail and look too bad while learning. But it was exhilarating because it brought us to Broadway in about 2.5 years.
And also we learned a whole lot of techniques, acting techniques that we never even knew we didn't know. And we came back.
we never knew we didn't know these
we didn't even know we didn't know them. And when we got back and did our act together, there was a whole lot. The act has grown so much. We're a classic form of comedy team that very few people are doing nowadays.
It didn't sound like you said
What do you think you thought it sounded like?
It sounded like you said naked. Or bacon, naked bacon. It sounded like you were saying naked bacon.
Oh boy, that clears it all up, doesn't it? Makes a lot of sense. I'm going to walk out here, start singing Stop, turn to my brother, and then I'm going to say naked bacon. Yeah.
Didn't make any sense to me either, so I just ignored it. I don't even know what naked bacon is, and if I did, I wouldn't do it.
Wait a minute. How could you ignore it? I never said naked bacon. How could you ignore something I never said?
Took a lot of imagination.
Took a lot of concentration.
I only heard you say take it once.
You heard me say it once? Which time?
3rd time.
How did you know it was the 3rd time if you didn't hear the first 2?
I counted backwards for the last.
You know what our secret was?
Fear.
No. Unique.
Unique, that's right.
And that's all it is. It's just a great little trick. It's a cheap trick. We didn't know it at the time. It's like the Wright brothers made a... They're always remembering it wasn't a very good plane, but it was unique.
It flew. It was the first one that flew.
And Dickie and I had kind of a unique relationship, and it was different. And that's kind of what
That's
it was.
important. You know, when Julie Budd came along, he said, boy, she sounds just like Streisand. Well, you don't make a hit sounding like anybody else or doing anybody else. So if anybody's out there thinking of comedy or whatever, look at their uniqueness. Find your uniqueness more than how you're like somebody famous. How are you not like them?
But isn't that hard today? With everybody doing everything, isn't it hard? Isn't it hard to find uniqueness?
I don't. Well, it's always difficult to be unique. There was only one Wright brother. But the point is to look for it and not to change your routine to be like someone else because that was successful. Young rock groups are always copying each other, and they're kind of clones. And comedy has a tendency to clone itself. And if you are genuinely funny and you have a sense of timing, which is what comedy's about, always tend towards the different. Don't tend towards the other side.
You may need to do that copying or cloning initially in your career, and a lot of musical groups followed the Kingston Trio, then took their left or right. A lot of them copied a little bit of the Everly Brothers and went their other directions. But unless you are really good and much better than the one you're imitating, you better take a left. Robin Williams, you could tell right away, he's the son of Jonathan Winters.
Very impressed by Jonathan Winters, yes.
Showbiz-wise, you see him. We went to a concert with Robin. We watched Jonathan Winters in San Francisco, and there's Robin up there. But
so
Robin,
he used that little bit of.
He used it to get it going. But he's phenomenal. That man's he's unique. He could do 3 one-hour shows in a row, everyone different, and he's never thought of them before.
Now, in your routine, is the conflict genuine, or do you get along off stage?
Well, we worked it out, but we really do disagree about a lot of things. Just
I don't think so. I don't think we don't disagree about
a lot of things.
No,
we do.
don't.
Well, generally,
he knows it's not true. He's just doing that to be well liked.
No, the point is that when you're a comedy team, you are 2 individuals, and whether it be Rowan and Martin or Evan Costello, there was always a definite friction. And if you work that friction, you don't even have to think about attitudes. You have to make up conflicts. We got it.
I wouldn't be great if the two identical twins, and they were identical persons.
I can't imagine identical twins being a comedy.
Nobody would laugh at them, but they kept agreeing with each other, and one did a stupid thing, the other did a stupider thing. Yeah. Yes, this is an honest relationship, and that's one of the first things, not worst, that we learned.
What was the worst things we ever experienced when we started out, and then it became sincere.
Someone said, I think it was Lou Gottlieb of the Limelighters, he said, you've got to be honest on stage. The audience will know it if you're not. And actually, I'm disagreeable with most everybody off stage. I play no favorites.
He's the authoritarian figure.
I'm not either.
Tommy and Dick Smothers have been busy revitalizing their act by gaining visibility as spokesman for Magnavox, the National Lung Association, and not so long ago, a new television series. It's 16 minutes past the hour. Novelist Will Weaver joins us next when Studio One continues.
You, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, do solemnly swear.
I, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, do solemnly swear.
That you will faithfully execute.
That I will faithfully execute the office
of President of the United States.
Of President of the United States.
And will, to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution of the United States.
So help me God.
The Constitution, the words we live by.
Immigration, entering a new residence, and emigration, leaving an old residence, were two key words in the late 1800s through the beginning of the 19th century. In Norway, more than 4/5 of the entire population came to the United States, a land of opportunity with the promise of cheap, fertile, and endless farmland. Will Weaver, a grandson of Norwegian immigrants, is a novelist known for capturing the emotions of the many immigrants who came to America. His first novel, Red Earth, White Earth, was presented as a 2-hour special last fall on CBS. Will Weaver, welcome, and thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
A pleasure to meet you. The theme of this conference here at the University of North Dakota is the literature of immigration. In your mind, Will, how precise and accurate is immigration in your style of writing?
I think my writing is really haunted by immigration. My grandparents were settlers in this northern Minnesota region, and I can still go back and see the stone outlines of some of the old buildings. And I find their stories creeping regularly into my modern fiction.
It almost seems a bit symbolic. Authors, at least fiction authors, are immigrants to some extent. True? They're exploring new creative fields.
Well, I think that's true. We can draw on our immigrant past, but we also can move into new personal territories, it seems to me, as well.
Your characters and storyline come from the life and the location and personality of the prairie of Minnesota. To some extent, then, Will, you're writing about yourself, values, perceptions, perspectives. Would that be true?
I think every novelist has in his work a ratio of fact and fiction. Maybe in some novels it's 50-50. Maybe in some novels it's 10% real life and 90% fiction. I think my fiction tends to be in that kind of half and half range, half of my life and experiences, and then, as I like to joke, half lies.
So there's tension almost between the two, between the reality aspect of it and the fact that it is fiction.
I think so, and we need imagination, we need lies to add to reality to make a better story.
Will, how do you maintain over the years a freshness in observation? Now, I expect, drawing from your own past and your own experiences, you are keeping over the years a running list of observations that you have to keep fresh to pull back from. How do you do that?
I think one of the things, and I say this to student writers in some of my classes, I say, you truly have to listen. That's the first thing. Go out to cafes or small towns or wherever your milieu is and listen. You can never learn much when you're talking. And secondly, trust your memory. Your memory will retain the most important things, and all the unimportant things will filter away.
The first novel, the hardest to write?
I think it is. First novel is an enormously large prospect, and there are a bunch of things one can do to make it easier. I think, for example, starting with the short story form was successful for me.
Well, I want to read something from the LA Times book review regarding Red Earth, White Earth, which was called an extraordinary debut on your part. The stuff of robust drama. Weaver is that rare, real thing, a writer of uncommon natural talent. Now, easy for them to say, they're not the ones that put all the work into it. How much of that is a God-given gift? How much of that is developed?
You know, there's another part to that quote there that I can't resist saying. That reviewer said, he's a backwoods pitcher with a 98-mile-an-hour fastball. I like that metaphor. But I think in terms of natural talent, maybe only 20%, because so much is in the work. You just have to go at it day after day and get the words on paper. And I think it's that way with any art, any sport even. You have to go out there and put in the laps in the pool, or put in the time at the piano to truly make your art come to full flower.
Okay, Will, we're going to take a break. Folks, when we return, more with Will Weaver when Studio One continues.
The stiletto, outlawed in most major cities. The trench knife. It boasts a 7-inch solid steel blade. The survival knife, designed to cut through virtually anything. Yet the most dangerous knife of all may be the one we use to eat too much high-fat food, the ordinary table knife. For a free booklet on how to help reduce your risk of cancer and heart disease through low-fat eating, call 1-800-EAT-LEAN.
Welcome back to Studio One. It's 22 minutes past the hour. We're talking with novelist Will Weaver. Will, when we're talking about writing, before we went to the break, you mentioned about hammering it out almost on a daily basis. How do you deal with writer's block?
Writer's block. You know, Hemingway said something really useful to me, and I would pass that on to other emerging writers. He said, when you have a good day of work, you have a few pages on the table, and you're having fun with your writing, stop yourself. Stop in the middle of it. And that way you leave yourself something to come back to the next day.
Is the best testimony to a good novel, is it that it's to solely entertain, or is it to move the reader to some course of action in his own life? What do you think?
I think the novel has to be a combination. Its early purpose was solely to entertain. And ideally one could cover both those bases, to pass a long evening or a couple of long days at the beach, but also make one take a serious look perhaps at one's own life and times. So I do think, particularly in my work, I want to have that serious side as well as entertainment.
For you then, personally, Will, the writing, do you value it because of the expression of writing, or do you value it because you have something to say?
You know, I think I started writing because I read books and I saw things on television, saw movies, and I always said to myself, and I know there are other people who think this way too, I could do better than that. I could do that. And so I write in a way to entertain myself, and I think if an author does that, if he knows that in his writing he has made himself happy, or if he's writing horror, he has frightened himself, he knows that that will carry through to an audience as well.
Will, CBS took Red Earth, White Earth and aired that last fall. Under what name? Was it Red Earth, White Earth?
Yes.
The storyline changed much? Did they have to make some changes?
I came off relatively unscathed, I think. Lots can go wrong in film productions, but Red Earth, White Earth had the same heart that beat in the novel, I think, and the casting was good with Geneviève Bujold and Ralph Waite from the Waltons. In the end, a really shortened version of the novel, but that's the nature of the medium.
The impact, the final message done and said was very similar to the content of the book, though.
The same spirit, the same soul of the novel did translate into television, so I felt really good about that.
Nice for you to sit down and watch your work?
I sat down with my family and we cooked up a big bowl of popcorn, and we treated it like an evening with CBS, and it was fun.
Good work, Will. As we approach the 21st century, what would your advice be to young writers with pen in hand, what would your counsel be to them?
I would say take a look back, and by that I mean take a look to their heritage, but don't become obsessed by it. I think we're going to see an enormous wave of nostalgia as we come toward the end of the century. But it's important for people to make sense of their present life and times, and I'm a big fan of doing that through the written word.
Nothing has been lost in writing over the years with intent on highly visual experiences?
Some people, I do think, have been seduced by film and television and are writing with that in the backs of their mind. I think that's a mistake. There can be sort of a mix-up in genres there. Is it a novel or is it supposed to be television? I would say for any writer thinking of writing a novel, don't worry about television, don't worry about feature films. Concentrate on your story, bring it alive in every way you can.
Will Weaver, thank you for giving us good reading.
Pleasure.
We appreciate you coming on this morning. Will Weaver. More with Studio One as we continue.
I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed days, the dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
If you're not recycling, you're throwing it all away.
Wake up all the teachers, time to teach a new way. Maybe then they'll listen to what you have to say.
The power of teaching.
The world won't get no better if we're just
The power to wake up young minds. The power to wake up the world. Teachers have that power. Reach for the power. Teach. I'm Edward James Olmos, and we're recruiting new teachers. Call 1-800-45-TEACH.
March Madness continues as the NCAA men's basketball road to the Final Four continues to narrow. Tonight, Minnesota and Syracuse precede Michigan State and Georgia Tech at the Superdome in New Orleans. Loyola Marymount and Alabama are followed by UNLV and Ball State in a doubleheader at the Alameda County Coliseum in Oakland. By Sunday, folks, we're going to have our Final Four. The semifinals and championship game will be next Saturday and the following Monday night, respectively. With a final look at the weekend forecast once again, here's Bridget. Bridget?
Thanks, Tom. Looking at the nation's forecast for Saturday, this Arctic cold front, which will be moving further south, will be creating clear and bitter cold temperatures throughout the Great Plains. And this front, this low pressure, will be creating thunderstorms throughout Texas and through Florida. On the west coast, the system, which I said will move on to the coast, create thunderstorms throughout California. The forecast in detail. Under clear skies, the high temperature will be 20 degrees today. The winds will be west at 15 to 20 miles per hour and no chance of precipitation. Tonight, clear skies, the low temperature will be 0 degrees. The winds will be west 5 to 10 miles per hour and no chance of precipitation. The extended outlook for the region. Saturday, under sunny skies, the temperature will be 25 to 30 degrees, and Sunday, partly cloudy skies, 25 to 30. The temperatures will be warming up throughout the weekend, and hopefully we'll be able to join some spring temperatures next week. Tom?
All right, folks, bundle up. It's chilly this morning. We'd like to thank Will Weaver for joining us this morning, and a big thank you to you for starting the day with us. From all of us here at Studio One, have a great weekend, and we'll see you again next Friday.